me introduce you all to a personality in the Indian wine industry who has meandered her way through hospitality education, a meritorious visit to Scotland's whiskey trail for her caliber and knowledge, former hotelier, now a sommelier, full time. Her journey has been a flowing river, discovering new territories just like the Ganges. Allow me to present my former colleague and a friendly face, Ganga Ghale.
Thank you. Thank you,
Hi,
Nisha.
Ganga. Thank you so much for being here.
That was a very nice introduction. Like my name is Ganga, so like that.
Of
Right.
course,
Really cool.
this
Nice.
episode is
Nice.
Wine Ganges. She is the Wine Ganges, and she will be telling us a lot about Bangalore and what the wine scene is like.
Mm.
So let's get to the basics. What inspired you to get into wine specifically?
Right. I mean, my story with wine is not something like it's not very dramatic. I grew up in an army background, so like I had no connect with wines whatsoever. My first introduction to wines was in hospitality management, like your college. That's when I came across wines for the first time, and sitting in that classroom, tasting that wine. Mr. Keith Edgar was um, taking that session. He was conducting that one, and that very moment I had like a very like small realization that okay, this is something interesting. I want to take this up and probably move ahead in this direction. So that's something that I did have a realization, but then the action to that realization only came couple of years later. Right, so I mean I moved into hotels and like then into wines, but the one thing that kept me like hooked onto wines was the ever changing scenarios with wines. Like, I mean, you can't really stop at one bottle of wine, one region, one story, one winemaker. I mean, like, there's so much. You can't pinpoint, like, what is exactly the
Absolutely.
reason, right? Because it's the people, it's the bottle of wine, it's the stories behind, it's a lot of different things. Because like I don't think there's any one, like there's not a definite way to say that this is one particular thing I like about wine, or this is why
Absolutely.
um, I like to be in the business of wine. I mean, there's so many factors, like and I think the most important thing is now now that I've become a part of the business, it's the people.
It's the people.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you said that. And Bangalore has always been quite forward as well. I mean, has it's never been the same since Kingfisher. So, despite the spirit and beer competition, how are you navigating the wine scene in Bangalore? It's relatively more aware compared to other metropolitan cities.
Yeah, I mean, so the city, I've been here in the city for the last 5 years now, have definitely seen a gradual growth. It's the wine scene is not like a sudden spike or a trend catch up. I would say it's more of like a steady and gradual growth, and like where people are actually opening up to newer experiences. And that way, I think the city is also gifted with a lot of people who want to experiment, who want to experience new experiences, curated ones.
Willing to open their minds a little bit.
Exactly. And they're also um very much like, yeah, as I said, like they're open to experiences, they want to experiment. So that way wine has now like started to see its time. Because I remember like back in 2020, when I came into the city, I wanted to join like a wine group or a wine community of sorts where I could taste, because I had watched this documentary called Som, and I was very
Okay.
influenced by it. So back then, like the close knit community of like professionals was also not something. I'm sure there might be, but then it was not something that was new, or like that was open for somebody new to the city. So I wasn't aware of any of that. So um now that 5 years into the city, I see like so many professionals catching up. Everybody is tasting wines
Yeah, it's a
together.
lot more rapid. Like,
it's
even when
it's
I
it's a
joined
lot
here,
more.
hotel management. I had no clue what accommodation operations meant, what food and beverage service meant, and what food and beverage production meant, because I thought food and beverage was being in the restaurant. And then, as even as I was graduating, the newer students, they already knew that they wanted to be a mixologist, they wanted to be a sommelier, and I'm like, we learned these terms as we came on. So it's
Yeah.
there has definitely been a lot of growth in terms of the awareness and what people are seeing, and the perception of hospitality industry is changing. Not fully yet. People are still confused, and some of my relatives still think, "Oh, is she a chef?" But it's fine. It's a generation
Right.
gap. They probably aren't aware. But it's amazing that there was a need and you saw it and you felt it. And I'm so glad that you said that you watched it on a documentary and on Som, and then you and try to implement it. And I think that's so important, especially in our industry, that we need to experiment as much as possible. Trial and error is the only way to
Right.
succeed. And you connect people, you meet people, and it's so good. And how has the community been treating you?
Yes, good, good.
So
I mean,
far?
like I would actually wanna call out few names who've made this happen in the city. There's so many people actually who are involved in this, community that has been uh, running up and running for the last 3 years in the city. Um, People like Harish, these are my friends, with whom we started the community together. Like Harish, Tino, Chetan, Prashant are one of the first few mentors that we nagged a lot. Vishal, Nagpal, right when we started off this whole wine community, Bangalore, because the idea was to just like taste wines on a regular basis. Um, just like how sommeliers are expected to do off their shift, or like at least they want to learn about wines, and with fellow sommeliers it becomes more easier because you can then have like a good exchange of knowledge on the wines, but that was not happening before. So I mean, that was the opportunity, and I think like somebody had to take it. So I think I'm very glad that I'm doing this with my friends who are also in, in the wine business in India. Yeah. Now, see, that's the great part because 5 years ago, I wouldn't have known like if there are any more communities, but now like there's smaller groups being formed. A lot of people
Yes.
are like getting into it, so that's great to see that. So I'm not sure like if there are much more, and like because a lot of people are getting into wines, be it freshly graduated students, or like somebody who's always been in the wine business. So there's so many people around. So now there's like these groups being formed for regular tastings, for professional meetups. So that's great. I mean, that's already happening, so which is great from the
That's
professional point.
absolutely lovely. And let's talk about wine is being perceived as a woman's drink. And would you like to, what can we do to change that awareness and change that market segment or branding that exists around wine being a woman's drink?
I mean, it's still prevailing, but it's not to an extent that we disregard a beverage into a certain category, be it, calling it or categorizing it as feminine or masculine.
Mhm.
Wine is a beverage for all. With that being said, the awareness will only come from experiences, because how much of like someone can post on social media educating people, because ultimately the people have to experience all of that on ground. I can talk about
Absolutely.
um wines all day in front of my camera and still upload videos if I need to, but then is it like the is the video making sense to anybody who's actually
True.
um or is it getting targeted to the
Absolutely.
right audience? Because
That's
that's
a
when
very
like
good point
the
you've made.
the idea is not to like we all talk about spreading awareness, but how is your awareness being spread? Because the conversion is only going to happen, or the mindset change is only going to happen when you experience it, or when you make somebody experience it in person. Because just having to put your thoughts on social media or some sort of platform may reach the audience who will appreciate that content piece, or who will appreciate that idea that you have in your head. But then, till the time people don't experience it, they will not be able to change their mindset. With that being said, your wine, if it is considered a feminine drink, we need to make a lot of guys to try the wines. And how do we do it? Probably by opening a wine bar, or like doing a lot more tastings. I'm like, that's a lot of groundwork that needs to be.
Thank you so much for bringing in so much depth and also the perception of being in the industry. And I think when we have voices like you, it when your opinions are voiced, it's important that other people are able to kind of understand, at least through your experiences, and vicariously build their knowledge too. And everything that you've said was absolutely correct. And I think, but starting somewhere and then welcoming more groups and welcoming more communities makes it much more easier for the beverage or the brand to be more accessible, and it creates that culture, and you're able to actually realize that, oh, it wasn't so complicated as I thought. So moving on to some of the other questions which keep coming up is anything wrong with canned wine or boxed wine compared to bottled wine? What do you think?
I don't think there's anything wrong, because I'm sure like the maker must have thought of something when they're producing these different categories or different styles of like packaging and stuff, because that caters to a different market altogether. I recently bumped
Absolutely.
into um, one more canned wine brand, which they were like sort of um, posting a video about, which made it look very cool, that wine is a very cool drink that the younger generation can look into, indulging in and all of that. So I think that there's a way like how all of these can be perceived now, for people who have probably now have an elevated taste, or they might not that canned beverage or like the box wine wouldn't be their preferred choice. But for somebody who's just there,
Starting out, maybe.
yeah, I'm sure they will bump into, because I remember there's a, like, so I told you about my dad being in the Indian Army. So we he got posted in Goa, and then the one time he actually got a box wine. For me, that was like, what is this? And that time I had still not studied any like wine stuff. So for me, that was technically, so that was like the first interaction. But because like at our homes, like we were not allowed to touch alcohol, all of that and stuff, so I never really dare to taste it. But I do remember when my dad came back from Goa, he got a box wine. It was like a carton box with a small tap, sort of a like a nozzle sort of thing, and there was wine in it. I'm not sure how that would have tasted. Maybe like after this, I'll go and try a box wine. I don't know. Like I've
Actually,
never really
maybe like
tried a box wine.
how younger Ganga would see it, and then now how the current Ganga would be like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was it. But that
No, I've
is
never
so
tasted
cool
a
that
box wine actually.
but that is
Never.
so cool that like you had such interactions, and even at a young age you were exposed to something like that, like
But yeah, no
having a
tasting.
boxed wine.
Mm.
Speaking of tasting, you also conduct tasting sessions and you curate these experiences. And as a sommelier, wine tasting is a very subjective experience because it's an individual's personal sensorial experience that they feel. So while you're conducting these sessions for other sommeliers or people working in the hotel or the service industry or waiters and waitresses who serve wine and are interacting with guests, could you share some tips on how, as a person of the moment in that time, can they help create a unanimous, or rather bring all the guests on the same table with the tasting experiences when you do these kind of tasting experiences?
Right.
that everyone's on the same page, especially when the guests, some of them might know, might not know. So how do you tackle that, and when you're doing your tasting sessions?
The idea is very simple. To make it actually very simple for everybody. Uh, so irrespective of majority of the people who would be there in the room, you would actually have a mixed package with most of the tastings, because there would be people who would know a lot about wines, would be actually they might not even know more than you, and there are people who are just like probably starting off with their wine journey. Now with tastings, the beauty is you can number one, categorize the tastings. You can basically make into different models, like for example, it's an only a consumer led tasting, or it's only for consumers, and then the tastings for wine professionals. Because when you don't mix the people, one, the idea becomes very easy and clear. But if any scenario, if any in any given scenario you have people who are like mix of professionals and consumers, then the idea is to make it simple for everybody. Because like with you going over technical about a grape variety or any particular wine will not help the consumer on that in that same room understand all of that, whereas the professional can still take that easy information and tweak it to his or her understanding, and still draw conclusions. So the idea is to like keep it very simple, and always keep that one segment or one part of the tasting open for questions, where people can throw up a lot of questions in that. But then with tastings, now that I've hosted tastings for people who are probably in their mid 20s to with a room full of well traveled, um, like seasoned wine drinkers. Um, one thing is like keep it fun, keep it easy, because the idea like is to make this whole tasting experience a fun experience. Now, how to make it fun is like first you have to gauge the room. Um, who are your audience? Who are the people who are listening? As you said, are these the wine professionals who know their stuff? Then my conversations um, would be very different in that room. Or are these absolutely new, fresh wine drinkers who are just starting off their wine journey? Then my conversation or my details of the wine or anything that I say would be very very simplified. Or is it like a room full of, as I said, mixed mixed bag? Like, is it a balance of professionals and then your consumers? Then you will go neutral, as to like make it simple for everybody to understand, because then the professionals in the room are very much equipped to sort of draw their own points in their head and then ask you relevant questions. But for consumers, they can easily grasp what you're saying and what you're talking about that particular wine. So with tasting session, it becomes very interesting and easy actually. The more you gauge with people, the more you understand what they're actually looking for in that tasting. Because everybody's motive to be in a tasting room is very different. Some people are there to
Mm.
be actually um, be tasting more. Some people actually want to listen to the person who's talking about the technicalities about their wine. Some people are there for the gram. So I mean, like the more you interact on ground without really overthinking what do I say about that wine. First you gauge with the the audience, because that's more important, and then you will understand at what page you are like they are in with you. Are they interested? If they're not interested, probably do some like wine games with them, like something of that sort. So I think it's very there's no hard and fast rule to like how to conduct a tasting, especially the fun one,
But
where
going with
because
the
the idea is
flow.
to make it fun. And yeah, exactly, exactly. You don't have to be like so rigid, because um I recently did a tasting session for the Bangalore club, and
Okay.
a lot of people who were there in the room were actually well traveled. They knew the wines, and few of them, they were also like starting off, and these, they were not like, um I wouldn't say the younger generation. They were like well traveled people. So I mean, like, then in the room full of those well traveled people, why would they listen to me in the first place? That was the question that was in my head. I was like, what am I gonna say? But then as
Wow.
the tasting went ahead, and like we were just throwing banters about the wine, and like talking about the wine more and more, I realized that that way there's no like age that or like there's no um age factor
It's
which
just the
comes in, because
social construct we have
yeah.
in our minds thinking that. And I'm actually very impressed when you said that someone who's so experienced and who's dealing with this and doing this as an everyday job, that she does this every day and she's like, it's her passion and she's following every day, but still she asked a question to herself that, can I do this? That, wow, that's very humbling. And it's,
Because
I
I mean, like,
think,
then there's so
you're
much
so open
that
to
you can
learn,
learn.
and that's really important. I just wanted to appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
But it's
Yeah,
been
that's
it's been
it. And
amazing to see your journey, Ganga. Like, it's literally, you started somewhere from the Himalayas, quite close to Nepal also, and now flowing through the industry and all the way down
I
in
mean,
the
you've seen
Kaveri
me
River.
in.
We've worked together, and I'm sure, and we need more people who are actually on the floor doing this and more actively pursuing this. And this, I think you're working for the greater good of the community, and it's really, really amazing. And I know that you've started your own little project as well. So just before we part, would you like to please tell everybody what is Ending on a High Note, and what can they find there, and how can they discover what it is, and please tell us all about it.
Sure, sure. I mean, so ending on a high note is a very simple phrase. When you drink a glass of wine or you kill a bottle of wine, you actually end on a very high note. So that's like a pun. I'm like that, but I could not think of any other phrase or like the name for the brand. So that's like ending on a high note. It's also an expression that when you do what you do, and like, and you love that, every day ends on a high note for you. I mean, like, irrespective of how the day, it could be mix of everything, your emotions rolling, and you're toiling through the day and stuff, but then at the end of the day, what uh, makes you go through everything is your love for what you do, and that's ending on a high note. But with that being said, it's actually I'm working towards building into a small platform where people can just it's a social media platform for now, where people can just like come on and check the page out. I'm trying to simplify wines. Again, I'm not it's not like a very unique standing proposition of, oh, making wine simple for people who want to learn. But then if you talk about people who are doing that in the Indian market, that would be still a relatively lower number. So I mean, I might be one in the thousands and thousands of people who are trying to simplify wines for another hundred of people in the space. But my idea is also to sort of make it very, very niche to the Indian clientele, because the way, now that I've worked in the I'm working in the wine industry, like in Indian context. how people here in India or Nepal perceive wines, or how they taste, how they understand flavors or aromas. That's very different from what you will see in the Western or the European, uh, this thing like areas, because the fruits. I'm like, it's a whole lot of a different game altogether. But alongside, as part of the Ending on a High Note project, this is also a wine journal that I've started
Okay.
initially of this year. So this is a very simple one. Like, it just as a wine diary, and then you have like the first page. I thought I'll just show it to you,
Yeah.
and then this is a little note from my
Wow.
end,
That
and
is so
this is
lovely.
th- again, this is, as I said, like how people learn or like understand wines in India or like Nepal would be very different. So this is a very simplified version. It's a wine calendar. So every
Oh, that's
month, if
so
you have like
cute.
some important days and stuff, and I believe in manifestation. So this is like a wine vision board. So for you to like sort of put pictures of all your wine goals that you have for the year. It could be like, cracking your coat of master sommelier, or like your WSCT, the vineyards that you want to visit, the wines that you want to taste, the people that you want to meet, the books that you want to read. So all the pictures that,
Wow, a very
something that,
dedicated journal. Love it.
yeah, and something if you want to like tick off, like again, a wine bucket list of all the
Okay.
things that you want to like do in that year. And then this is like your tasting
Wow.
section, where you will now systematically be able to like write your tasting notes. It is not like a super advanced format, because this is meant for people who are starting off with their wine journey. So it's not like super complex or difficult to understand format. So it's made very simple, available in 5 different colors for people in India who want to like grab these. And
This
then like
is
there's a
really
blank
amazing.
page
Wow.
for, so
Initially,
it's
I
just
did come across it and I thought, oh, that's so cool. That's a customized tasting sheet. But I didn't realize it was an entire journal. Wow, that's really amazing. And I think trying to make that
it is in
journey
diagram.
personal really helps people to kind of focus on their goals,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
so important that you need to realize what you want and what you are excited to see, what is interesting for you. But because maybe it's not necessary that everybody is saying that they love this particular kind of wine. Like I after coming to Europe, I have now moved more towards whites than reds. Before I was very much into reds, but now I'm more into whites. And but 10, like, if 5 6 years ago, if you told me to drink white wine, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not really sure about that. But after
yeah.
coming here and exploring the flavors, the tastings, and it just made my journey so much more personal. And that's so amazing. I really love the color concept and the customizability of it. I was
Yeah.
just wondering, is there a digital version of this copy, or do you send, will you be able to deliver to other countries?
As of now, no. Nothing,
Okay.
not as of now. It's only available in India. As in, I'm doing this.
Okay.
Before I like fully uh, put it out in the market, I send few copies to my wine professionals, like my friends, who could test it out and see if there's any feedback, and so incorporated all of those. But the idea is like very simple, because when I started off with my wine journey, I took buttloads of notes. I mean, like too many notes, but I felt it was like not organized, and I had like sort of no
Absolutely.
directional sense in terms of
It's
how do I
literally
move
everything under the
um,
sun. So
uh,
how do
towards.
you organize that?
Yeah, I mean, like, what do I do? What do I do with all these wine tasting notes? Because visited the wineries and vineyards, and like, how do I keep it super organized? Yeah, yeah. So that was the whole thing. I mean, like, if I could help more students who are like getting graduated, or like who are still in the college figuring out if wine is something that they would like to pursue. I'm just trying to like do this to help people out, so that they are not as confused as how I was when I was a college student, because I wanted to do wines, but in what direction? What do I get into? Like, how do I get into
Absolutely.
wines? Or like, what is the role that I want to do in, um, or like how? So that was the whole, I mean, like, a whole lot of questions that I had in my mind. So this journal might not answer all those questions. You'll have to figure out yourself. It will just help you keep your
Yeah. And give you the right
wine
tools
notes
to figure those
organized.
questions
Yeah,
out. And
right,
that's
right.
what made me start Da-Vintry Code as well, because I realized if there was so much information, like even just knowing the language here was so important. Now I am relatively in a better speaking proficiency of French, but it made so much of a difference because the interactions with the winemakers or the interactions with the producers in the industry, it just changes completely. And the minute they have to start thinking in another language, they're not used to speaking in English as often until unless they're specifically in sales or they are dealing with marketing or in global marketing and things like that. But the hardcore people that who are actually making wine and dealing with it every single day, they have been in the industry for 20 years, 30 years, some of them. And the knowledge that they have is all in French. So I just felt like so handicapped and verbally like handicapped because I had so many questions and I wanted to make so much more out of the opportunities that I had. And I just felt that, oh man, if I knew this, then I would have prepared much better. And I think that's what made me begin this particular podcast. And the idea is to help or share information and share stories where people have succeeded, they have figured their own way, and it's still a completely, like you said, wine is so vast that you just don't know where to start. And the point
Yeah.
is, you just have to start. It doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter how, just begin. And that's the idea behind this. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
And
you.
would you like to give any parting message? And if people would like to contact you for more questions, specifically in Bangalore, or how to get into tastings or anything else, where can they contact you? And please tell them your details.
Yeah, sure. Parting note, I mean, I think wine is just a fantastic drink to enjoy. We tend to overcomplicate a lot of things by ourselves. Guilty being one of those, probably in the initial stage. But then the more you get into wines, it only gets better. And it's also very important to have those nerd out sessions, so which is good. Like, you to have it with the fellow professionals and the wine folks. But apart from that, it's just a really, really good beverage that you need to just enjoy with your loved ones, family, friends, without overthinking. Um, so yeah, I mean, just enjoy the wine like any other beverages. And time in, again, you can always nerd it out if you want to, without overcomplicating things and stuff. And for people who want to contact, you can reach out to Ending on a High Note, which is the page that I'm building. But apart from that, I'm also available on Instagram under the name Miss Ghale. So probably you can share the details
Thank
of
you
that.
so
Yeah.
much. And I just have a last question. Was Chateau Talbot paisa vasool?
Oh my God. No comments on that. I mean, like when I made that video, it was like the bottle was like straight out of a cupboard, so it was not even like chilled. We just like made a fun video. Like I just poured like tiny bit from the korava, and it was like warm. So I don't know, we did not do justice to the wine by serving it like so warm. But yeah, I mean, like, there's so many wines that I still need to taste. That was one of them, 17,000.
Well, to more tastings, and hopefully
Yeah,
someday I would love to be a part of a tasting that you're conducting with Ending on a
for
High Note.
sure.
And I
Thank you.
will try and get a journal the next time I'm in India. And hopefully before that, you can start releasing digital copies, because I think that's such a cool idea for people to familiarize themselves. And I'm sure more people would love something like that. So as soon as the digital copy is out, do let me know and everybody else know. But also, thank you so much for saying
Thank
yes,
you.
and thank you so much for being here. Have a lovely
Thank
day,
you.
Ganga. Thank you so
Thank you. Bye bye.
much.
Thank you. Bye.